Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I don't know.
You have to have a favorite. What comes to mind?
You are listening to Scream with Ryan C. Showers, the podcast for Scream fans just like you. Join Ryan every week as he takes a deep dive into the horror film series that defined the 90s and redefined the genre. Scream with Ryan C. Showers is your source for scene and quote analysis, character dissections, and the latest news about upcoming installments of the Scary Movie franchise.
I hear you like horror movies, Kirby, but do you like them as much as him?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Scream with Ryan C. Showers podcast, where the film critic meets the Scream fan twice a week, every Tuesday and Friday. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. Now, before I go any further, I need to thank the producers of Scream with Ryan C. Showers. They include Ashley Summers from the Squirrel and Spud Shop. She and I host a Scream game every Wednesday on Instagram, so please check that out. I also need to thank TJ Jones, who comes from the Box Office Buds podcast. He is responsible for all of the graphic design of Scream with Ryan C. Showers in terms of new episode cards on social media promotion. So thank you so much to TJ for all he does. I also need to thank contributors Mark Karim, Mark Vieira, and Joey Velisi. Joey Velisi is the guy who writes the scripts for Scream with Ryan C. Showers. Episode 112, we wrote a Scream 7 script, which I read out loud, about the end of the Carpenter sisters storyline. And then the sequel to that was called Screams. It was centered around the legacy of Gail Weathers. That's episode 155. And Joey is currently working on the final Scream, which this is a product that is going to examine the relationship, the marriage of Mark and Sydney. Unlike the real Scream 7, this will feature Mark Kincaid as Sydney's husband, and she won't have a teenage daughter. Both of her daughters will be young, so it'll be much different than the real Scream 7 we're going to get. But that is going to be coming to the podcast late summer, early fall, so please tune in for that. I need to thank everybody over at Patreon. Thank you to everybody who subscribes to the Patreon at any and every tier. I'm an independent entity, so any bit of support that comes into the Patreon goes back into the podcast. Joining the Patreon gets you ad-free and early access to every episode, as well as the opportunity to join the community of the show. We have group chats across social media. In particular, Instagram is really the hub of the podcast community. More importantly, joining the Patreon is the vessel in which you would use to come onto the podcast, either in a one-on-one situation with me or a small panel. In addition, there's a guaranteed invite every month to a big group Zoom recording about a Scream topic. An exciting feature of the podcast is the audio commentary episodes. Every Scream fan knows what it was like listening to Wes Craven do the audio commentaries for the original trilogy and Scream 4, with Marianne Maddalena and Kevin Williamson and Patrick Lussier. And what I'm trying to do for my Patreon subscribers is I am going to be performing an audio commentary of a Scream or a Scream-related movie, one per month, every month. And my goal is to try to approach these as I'm doing deep analytical analysis about the characters, about the themes, about just general reaction. So it's something that I'm really proud of and I hope continues to be a cherished part of the podcast. So the commentary is available as a normal podcast episode for anybody to listen to like they would any other podcast, but it will also be available as a video watch along. So everybody, please go over to Patreon, subscribe to Scream with RCS. I would be eternally grateful. So I need to go through and thank everybody over at Patreon who is subscribed as a stab investor or a daddy/mama Ghostface. So the daddy/mama Ghostface of the Patreon are Carrie Tenney, Brett Janovich, Corey Wilson, and Stevie Shears. The stab investors include Allie, Mark Karim, Tamika Jones, David D., Garrison Nichols, Gustavo Mora, Jess Mariano, Joey Nobarini, aka The Vault, Josh Calamari, Josh Carr, Scream Queens podcast, both Josh and Justine, The Horror Project podcast, Justin Weir, Kevin Abner, Mark Vieira, PWO5, aka Philip Douglas, Quentin Harrison, and Sam Levy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Scream with Ryan C. Showers. I'm your host, Ryan C. Showers. Oh my God, this is a momentous day. I'm so excited to be doing this. This is like my moment in a way, my non-Scream moment. So today we are going to be doing an audio commentary of the movie Halloween H20. It came out in 1998, starring Jamie Lee Curtis, directed by Steve Miner, written by Robert Zappia, but it was also written by Kevin Williamson, uncredited. Oh my God, I can't wait to do this. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. Literally, it's like Scream 1, 2, and 3, H20. In a lot of ways, H20 it's like a silent Scream movie. It's like Scream 2.5 between 2 and 3. It's the Screamified version of Halloween, and it's always been my favorite sequel, and I'm comfortable to say that I even prefer it to the original Halloween, just because that is it's my truth. It's where my heart is, even though I know the original Halloween is a cinematic masterpiece. But there's so much I love about this movie. It's in terms of Laurie Strode, I think that they draw her in a similar manner in which Sydney has her character arc in the original trilogy. So it really speaks to me, and you can really see Scream's influence on Halloween. Before, Halloween was influencing Scream, so now we kind of see the inverse of that, where Scream is influencing Halloween. So it's very fun. This is going to be like the third movie in what I deem the Laurie trilogy. So bear with me, folks. So you have Halloween 1978, then you have Halloween 2, and then this movie H2O. Even though there were movies in between, this is kind of the story arc that forms, right? So it takes place 20 years after the original and Halloween 2, because they take place on the same night. And so without further ado, I guess we should just get going. So you can listen to this as one of two ways. You can listen to it just as me talking on a regular podcast like I normally would. I'm going to try to talk every second so that there is no empty space while I watch the movie. But I'm watching the movie right now, and we're going to go through the movie. I'm going to narrate the movie as I'm watching, the thoughts that I have. So you can listen to it just as a regular podcast episode, or you can put on the movie itself and have it synced up so that my audio is talking at the same time of whatever you're watching, like a traditional audio commentary. So I actually listened to the audio commentary by Steve Miner and Jamie Lee Curtis for this movie that came out a couple of years ago. And that was really fun because, Jamie Lee has made so many different iterations of Laurie over the years. And it was fun to see her watch the movie for the first time since the 90s. And she really liked it. She's like, Steve, this is a good movie. I'm enjoying this. And I'm like, yeah, Jamie. So anyways, okay, well, let's sync up and let's get going. So Halloween H2O. Okay. Also, if you haven't caught the episodes about Halloween H2O and Scream 7, how H2O could impact Scream 7, how it could inspire Scream 7, how we could see H2O in the new Scream 7 film. Go check that out. That came out on Tuesday. On the next Tuesday, we have an episode called Hallow Scream, which is going to be me and my friend Matt going through speedrun questions of Halloween and Halloween versus Scream. So it's very fun. I'm deeming August an unofficial Halloween H2O month just because this is the month that it came out. So it came out on August 5th, 1998. Again, kind of fun that you did a Halloween movie in August. Weird, but it's better than Resurrection coming out in July. So, but anyways, I'm going to start my movie. So I'm currently at 0:00. The movie says it's an hour and 25 minutes and 58 seconds. Really, that turns out to be about like an hour and 20. So, okay, let us do it. Okay, I'm going to press play and we're going to have a countdown. So 3, 2, 1, and start. So we're at 0:00:001. Let's go. Oh my God, the Dimension logo. Oh, I mean, such like warm, fuzzy memories of that. So, oh my God. Oh my gosh, so the opening shot, such like a jump scare. So I don't know if that woman is the woman what we see later on in the bathroom. That's my theory. I don't think it's true, but after some investigation. But I've always thought that like the woman we see with the daughter, with Casey, in the bathroom about 20 minutes, I always thought that was her. I don't think it is, but I love that jump scare shot kind of the knife going down into the pumpkin. What a perfect way to characterize that this is Halloween, right? Also, just the exterior vibes of this setting, it gives me real Haddonfield vibes. Like, this is what I want. This is what people want when we talk about Halloween, when we talk about Haddonfield. We talk about just the season of Halloween and fall and autumn. Like, these are the vibes, the leaves, the cold, the dampness. Like, that is the season. So, and of course, here we have Marion Chambers, who was the nurse of Dr. Loomis in the first two movies. I love that she's in this movie. I love that she's not only in this movie, but she is the opening victim of this movie. She's, an older woman, and she gets to be the opening kill. So you have like this really cool subverting of expectations. Like, you would think that it's going to be some young, dumb, hot people, but it's not. It's somebody who's actually really important, who knows Laurie Strode, and who did really well for herself. So, yeah. And she played a very significant part in the trilogy because she's the one who revealed to Dr. Loomis in Halloween 2 that Laurie and Michael are brother and sister, which of course is like what really makes this Laurie timeline special and differentiated from the new one with Blumhouse is that they are siblings. So, and here we go. We're aiming for a jump scare. Love it. Oh, there it is. And see, in that moment right there, we see the Jason hockey mask. That it's almost like that is the moment that Scream becomes integrated into Halloween H2O because it's meta. You know, they have the hockey mask there ready to go. Like, it's not like he puts it on. It's just like, bam, there's Jason. It's a meta reference right off the bat. We love that. So, yeah. And we have Joseph Gordon-Levitt here. This is one of his first roles, like on a big major motion picture, which is fun. My producer Ashley, she writes, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is so cute. I agree. I used to have a crush on him whenever I was younger. So I don't know, 500 Days of Summer, Inception. He's love the guy. So it's fun that he gets to be the opening victim because he is somebody now. Like, he is a huge actor now, and then we get to look back and like this is like one of the places he started. That's so fun, right? So, yeah. So there's actually a Scream 6 reference I'm excited to discuss in this sequence. So Dr. Stone in Scream 6, Sam's therapist, once Ghostface kills him, he goes into Dr. Stone's office, goes into the filing cabinet and pulls Sam Carpenter's file. And we kind of see the same thing happen here with Laurie Strode. Michael goes into Marion Chambers' office and steals the office files for whatever info she has on Laurie Strode, which is fun. So I don't know if Radio Silence intended that to be a homage in Scream 6 to Halloween H2O. In my head it is, just because these movies are so intertwined and so interlinked, but it is what it is. So this there are all the office files really messed up. We don't see the Laurie Strode file yet. I think we see that more so when she comes in and starts to look around. But yeah, so I love that connection, even if it's not meant to be. So I've always said that H2O and Scream 3 have a lot in common. They're both like the end of the trilogy or of the arc. Sydney and Laurie are in very, very similar places to each other between those two movies, and like they both complete this 3-arc set, if that makes sense, this 3-arc narrative. So I'll probably reference Scream 3 a lot here. So it's fun that Scream 3 and Scream 7 are both linked through the movie of H2O, because in some ways H2O is the trilogy ender for Laurie, this version of Laurie, but also it's the 7th movie, just like where we are returning to the main heroine, and it focuses on her family, which is what Scream 7 is going to be. So very fun. And Marion is still a chain smoker. So there you go. Interesting, right? I also like this little joke here. They did a number on your office and your kitchen, even though he messed up the kitchen. So funny, right? But so this relates to Scream 3 because Marion Chambers is somebody who was in Halloween 1 and 2. She didn't have a huge, massive role, especially in the first two, but actually more so in the second. She's in the finale. She delivers that big news about I almost like Cotton. No, she delivers that big news about Laurie and Michael being brother and sister. But she is the Cotton Weary here, because in Scream 3, Cotton Weary is the survivor opening kill. And here we have the survivor opening kill be Marion. Two people who are important, who are connected to the larger framework of the worlds of the heroine, right? So I actually asked the Patreons a while ago, like years ago, do we prefer the opening of H2O or the opening of Scream 3? And I actually believe that. I think I was like one of the few people who voted for Scream 3. I like this opening a lot. I don't know if I like it as much as I like the rest of the movie. Like, it's not something like I'm like, oh my God, this is such a great opening scene. It's a good opening scene, but I don't think it's like as groundbreaking. Like, I still think that I would probably prefer Scream 3's. Oh, look, there's Dr. Loomis, framed photograph. Interesting. But no, it's a very good scene. It sets the tone really nicely. It ties up a loose end of Marion. It gives us the plot of Michael coming after Laurie. You know, so. And here we go. We're getting to it. She has a nice house. I've always liked her house. And here's the first shot of Michael. So interesting that we see Michael from a distance. We don't really see his face. We just see the shape of him. Of course, the jumpsuit and the white mask. The mask is going to be something I'll probably discuss a lot. I'm not one of these freaks out there who keeps track of the masks and the continuity, but there are people who do not like H2O. I think most people can agree that narratively, from a story perspective and character perspective, H2O has it going on. But a lot of people don't like the production. A lot of people don't like the look of it. I like the look of it. Tough shit. A lot of people criticize the mask. It is what it is, because they use 3 different versions of the mask while filming. And here we go. The suspense is building up, but. Interesting because Scream 3 got made fun of for how tame its kills were, but we get 2 off-screen deaths in H2O right here. Hockey to the face. We like it. It's a cool visual effect and a cool aesthetic for sure. And the other guy has a knife in his back. He fell on top of her, which is very creepy, right? And there is Michael. Again, I like that the director isn't overwhelming us with his and he pulls the knife out of the knife holder. Just it's kind of a Casey Becker reference. It's kind of a Michael from 1978 reference because he pulls the knife out of the drawer in that one. Aren't these colors cool? We have purples and we have the lights from outside. And you can't say she's not trying. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So and then the knife goes to the floor. Awesome shot. Halloween does so many cool frames, cinematography with the big, long kitchen knife. It's so cool. And all Halloween movies have the opportunity to, and H2O definitely delivers on it. She is really fighting. It's crazy. And then the police go into the other house just as she's able to smash the window. I've always loved the window smash. It's such a adrenaline, And it's a throat slit. She ends with a throat slit. For that being the only real big violent moment in the opening, it works for me, But if, the critics of Scream 3, 20 years ago, they would have been like, that was too tame. Oh, shut up. It's so annoying. And now they discover it, right? And here's this is what Halloween's all about, right? The cops are onto it. There's some peace. And as we're kind of recovering from the deaths, we see the car just slowly get out there. Right. And it's a similar looking car to the original car. So interesting. Yeah. And here's something I really like that we see. I like that we see the cops coming in, investigating her house. The bodies being taken out. The rain. I don't know why I've always liked the rain. I think that the rain sets the mood really well. Because the opening is kind of ciphered off from the rest of the movie, I like that it feels more extended, right? It feels longer. This is the opening for H2O is longer than most Scream openings, believe it or not, which is crazy. But here we are. I love this wall with all the pictures and Michael and yeah, here we are. The drawing of Michael, the map, Haddonfield Times. The pictures of Dr. Loomis, of Laurie, of the victims from Halloween 2. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Also, Michael Myers, nah. And that's very Scream, right? That's very Kevin Williamson of the moment. Yeah, right. Boom. And then this is actually something very unique to the Scream world, if that makes sense, or even the Halloween world, is these opening credits, because the Halloween opening credits they were traditionally, right, the one frozen screen, the pumpkin on one side, the names coming through on the other. And this is not that. This is a huge, big montage of the history of what happened in those first 2 movies with Jamie Lee Curtis, with Laurie Strode, with Dr. Loomis. Awesome title card, awesome use of John Ottman's score. So there's also some drama with the score here, right? And we all kind of know this, but I'll just recap it gently. So the guy, John Ottman, was hired to do the composing for a Halloween H2O, and he did most of his work, and it's he was inspired by Hitchcock and was so it didn't sound like a Halloween movie. It was a nice piece of music, but the studio was severely unhappy with it. It did not play right. And if you go into like the Blu-ray, you can actually play different scenes. Listening to the original score, awful when next to the images, it just didn't fit for the movie. So they brought in Marco Beltrami to do some reworking of the score, and so and they actually used specific tracks from Scream and Scream 2 on top of whatever else Marco did originally for this film. So you'll hear some of Marco in Scream, so it literally feels like Scream because it's the same exact music, but you also hear some of this. A lot of John Ottman's music is here in this opening, and you can tell it's a different vibe, but it actually fits perfectly for the montage, the vibe that they're going for. Yeah, there is John Ottman. So additional music by Marco Beltrami. That's like the skull emoji moment. Editor Patrick Lussier, Scream Connection. He edited, of course, the 3-4 Scream movies that Wes Craven did. So usually montages like this sometimes don't work for people, but I think it really, really works here. It just gives the gravity of it has been so much time and so much has happened. I think it's just really nicely cut together. I like how the words are moving. The photos are just constantly changing, and it's very horrific. And we end with Laurie Strode, class of 78. Yeah, based on the characters by Deborah Hill and John Carpenter. So, screenplay by not Kevin Williamson. It should have been, right. So, yeah, directed by Steve Miner. Of course, he's directed other things people have seen, a lot of TV, a lot of Dawson's Creek, whatever. But yeah, so. And now we are transitioning to the setting, the main setting of Halloween H2O, which is the same house, which is John Milton's house of Scream 3. This is the school where Laurie is the principal of, or Carrie Tate. I'm going to call her Laurie, not Carrie. Some people call her Carrie. I'm like, who are you talking about? So interesting here. This is kind of like the reverse of the ending of Halloween 1978, where we flash and see like the settings after the movie's already taken place before the movie ends. Here we're seeing the setting of the school before before the movie happens, which is an interesting flip on its head. I didn't get to mention Mr. Sandman playing at the beginning, but of course, the song at the beginning of the movie, that was the song that played at the end of Halloween 2. So there was a nice link between the end of Halloween 2 and the beginning of Halloween H2O. And here's a flashback to the closet. And Josh Hartnett, there's a photo of him, knife in it, and Laurie Strode written on the chalkboard. And Jamie Lee is screaming in bed. Huge nightmare, and John is coming to save her. Yeah. Even though, like, I think that the trauma is handled really, really well here. It is different from Sydney and Scream. Like, I think there's a lot of Sydney, a lot about Laurie in H2O that is very Sydney coded, but like we never really see Sydney being this over the top in terms of the characterization. And it's different. Like I don't mind it. A lot of people would look at. I've heard mixed reactions. Like some people think that Jamie screaming in bed like that is over the top. I see it. I think it works. I think Jamie's such an effective actress. I think Jamie Lee Curtis loves to play intense stuff like that. So, and we have Josh Hartnett, my favorite Laurie child, which I've learned is kind of an unpopular opinion. People love Danielle Harris. Some people like Judy Greer. A lot of people hate her in the new movies, but. And John, I think people recognize that he's a good character and he's good for the story and he's very cute, right? But some people aren't as over the top about him as I am, but I definitely am. So here we are, Summer Glen, California. Really interesting setting. It's a Halloween movie that doesn't take place in Haddonfield, which is a big difference too. And it's Halloween Day, October 31st. So it is the day. So I love the setting though. And that shot right there, that's very Halloween 1978. We see leaves blowing across the pavement in that movie. Similar time. And here's the first of many Laurie and John scenes. Oh, so interesting. I love the script for Halloween H2O, and it's scenes like this that really make it happen for me. It's the dialogue, it's the character work, it's the explanation of things in very smart ways. I feel like he is her son. The banter, first of all, they look alike. The banter, you can feel the connection, the chemistry. This is one of Josh Hartnett's favorite first films too, so it's really amazing that he did such a good job going up against such an such an industry titan in Jamie Lee Curtis. Also, just the dance that they're doing here, she doesn't want him to go. He wants to go. The push and pull between parent and kids, and the way that he's kind of pushing her buttons. And who would attract someone like that? Ouch. So funny. Like, it's, and just think he left you, But this time, yeah. No, you're not. So dramatically real. Oh my gosh, like boom, 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 Oh, what day is that, John? Halloween. I didn't even notice. And you can just get a sense of their history as parent and child, just because it's been them, right, for most of his life, and how they've lived with this and grown with this, and like how every year, this is a thing, right? And John knows what to expect from his mom. And I think Laurie, she tries to keep it in check for him, but it's really hard for her, as we just saw, like how much she snapped right there. So I'll be interested to see how Scream takes this relationship and does its own version of this with Sydney and Isabel May, her character Tatum. So, and we're introduced to John's friends. I see, and we go right back to Laurie. Like, I love that, and this is such a beautiful shot too. You have the music, the original Halloween score, and Michael appearing to Laurie in the glass. Such a pretty shot, and well acted by Jamie Lee. I like that there's like this motif, because this happens several times within the movie. And then the last time this happens, it makes a statement. So I can't wait to get there. But even though there is a younger teen cast here, they don't suffocate the movie. This is still the Laurie Strode movie. I think of all of the Halloween movies, like, she has the highest screen time in this movie. Again, when you prioritize character development, that's what naturally happens. And we have Michelle Williams, the five-time Oscar nominee, Emmy winner for Fosse Verdon, Michelle Williams, Dawson's Creek, Michelle Williams. Oh my goodness, how fun is that? The Kevin Williamson connection of Dawson's Creek and Michelle Williams to really deep if you're a Dawson's Creek person. And you have Jodie Lynn O'Keefe here. She was on my friend Jacob's podcast, Happy Horror Time, and she's told some really fun tea about Halloween H20, which is really cool. And you have Charlie here, Adam Han Bird. He was supposed to be, I'll get into some cool trivia here. He was supposed to be like the Corey Cunningham of this movie. So originally his role was envisioned as a copycat version of Michael. And eventually, as the movie kept getting pushed forward and forward and forward, that storyline was dropped and kind of held for Halloween Ends all those years later. I'm glad that it was. So here we are. We have the mom and the little girl going, stopping along the side of the road for a rest stop. And there's Michael's creepy car. So the director, Steve Miner, he said something really profound in the audio commentary that he did with Jamie Lee Curtis. And he said, the trick of doing this kind of movie is that you set it up and then you don't kill them. And I love that. I think that's such a brilliant way of saying it. And that's kind of counter to what we're seeing today in today's films, where, not to, dig, but, in Scream 6, where Radio Silence literally gave three of our six survivors huge death scenes, but then kept them alive, without reason. It doesn't, and bending the truth of reality. Whereas you don't have to do that. You don't have to put the characters through a death, and then keep them alive. You can do something like this, right? Where you build suspense, you think they're going to die, and then for some reason they don't. And that, of course, is because Michael doesn't care about killing them. He just cares about getting the keys and getting to wherever Laurie is. So, yeah. I also just love how original this scene is. It's not homaging anything. It's doing its own thing. And I think that's the strength of Halloween H20 compared to, say, the Blumhouse movies, where they rely severely on Easter egging and homages. And I really hope that Scream 7 kind of gets back to things like this, where the screenplay is charting its own course and not only just not just so heavily relying on the past. Like I think this is H2O is like the perfect example of how to homage when necessary, but also stay on your own original creative journey. So so scary. Can you imagine being that mom in an abandoned, isolated place like this with your little girl and your purse gets stolen and you can see through the cracks there's Michael. And again, interesting that we're being withheld from a true shocking face visual of Michael. I know some people say, oh well, that's just because they're hiding the mask. That may be the case, but still the effect is he's just a shape, and it's kind of scary to get little flashes and not really see the full man, especially like her. She doesn't know who Michael is, right? So, yeah. So, also spiders, yeah, right. And here we get to see Laurie in action as the chancellor, dean, principal of of this private school, which is cool. So my producer Ashley, she wrote to me and she wrote, question: do you see Laurie as a teacher in education? I actually do. The Laurie in 1978. So we see her going two different paths. Right? We see the Blumhouse path where she's kind of a wreck for the rest of her life. And here, she was always a good student. She was always the good girl. So it actually makes sense to me that she would go this path and kind of be a goody two shoes. So much so, and smart enough so, to become the head of a school. So I've had someone say to me recently that they think that she's too cool in this movie, that she's too much like Jamie Lee Curtis herself, that she's like the cool principal, and that Laurie, the original Laurie, was much more reserved and quiet. I kind of see it, kind of don't. I just see that's part of Laurie's growth from, teenager to now, over the 17 years. So amazing setting. And I also just love that it shares this with Scream 3, And again, we're with the teens just for a little bit, for a flash. And then we get back to Jamie Lee and her storyline. And we get the introduction of Adam Arkin, who plays Will, one of my favorite characters in H2O, but also Halloween. Like, I love the chemistry with these two. I love them as a couple. I like him a lot as a character. For her, by himself, honestly, I could see myself dating Will. I love Will. I think he's handsome, smart, patient, understanding, thoughtful, sexy. And there's a big kiss. Yeah. But it's so fun to see Jamie Lee Curtis, like, as a mom, exploring herself romantically, with a, almost grown son too. Although this is so unethical, right? I mean, it's so funny to see the principal, hot and heavy with an underling, for lack of a better phrase, and the gender swap of that, because usually you would think that the principal would be a guy and hooking up with a normal everyday teacher, but it's swapped here. So can I just have today off? Yeah. Back whenever Sydney was supposed to be married to Mark Kincaid, I always thought like, I mean, I see a lot of Kincaid and Sydney in them just because of that intense conversation that Sydney and Kincaid have in Scream 3, because they have very intense conversations in this. Will and Laurie do. I also just love that Laurie's kind of a badass bitch. Like, she is the head honcho here, so I don't know. And here is the introduction of Ronnie, LL Cool J. Oh my God. This was one of his first acting gigs, and his wife is not his actual wife. His character wife is on the phone as he's exploring his desires to become an artist. So fun, but very memorable. It brings a lightness to the movie that I think that works well. Like the tone of H2O, I think, is really, really strong because it's based in drama. It's the drama of Laurie Strode and her trauma and her relationship with her son. But moments like this work. Little lightness works. And so I'm happy with Ronnie and his overall use. Like, he's a friendly, warm presence in this movie. It doesn't overwhelm the movie. Fuck me shit. We love a jump scare. And there's John and his little buddy Charlie. Ronnie, don't get your ass fired. my friend Ashley asks, my producer Ashley asks, would you read his novel? And I said, oh yeah, I would read it. Would I read it, this version of it, or the ending where he says, I'm going to make a thriller, a romantic thriller? I would read both. No. You accidentally. Yeah, John is he has like a reputation for being kind of a rebel. Is he though? He is he is a rebel in some sense. I will grant that. But like he's also reasonable. Like it's not like he's like, smoking crack and like, hopping the fence, and like, he's at least telling LL Cool J, hey, I'm out. Just in case, like, let's just say John did go missing. Ronnie could say, hey, by the way, he left about 30 minutes ago. So he's still somewhat within the realm of responsibility. So, and here we are. Laurie is driving to lunch. We could get a little bit of a scream moment. We hear the scream score. She's parking, and again, we get the second flash of Laurie seeing Michael when he's not really there. And in and amongst that, we get more trick-or-treaters, more Halloween vibes, more fall vibes. I think the atmosphere is really well defined. I mean, it's so important to most Halloween movies, right? But I think it's well defined here. So some people don't. Some people think that it's kind of a dry movie. I don't. So buzz off. And see Laurie's stopping, looking in the glass, and it's boom, round 2. Apparently this was practical. Like they had Michael right there, wasn't a special effects. Very cool. And then there's Will. So this scene that's coming up is of very iconic. People talk about it both as like a meme, but also for its intelligence and the emotional acting from Jamie Lee Curtis and Adam Arkin here, and for the emotional journey of Laurie. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this public preview of the commentary for this month. If you would like to listen to the complete audio commentary for the movie, please head on over to Patreon, Scream with RCS, subscribe at any tier to get the audio for this movie, for the audio commentary. Or if you subscribe at a higher tier, tier 2 or above, you can get the video for me performing the commentary while watching the movie. So again, everybody, thank you so much for supporting the podcast.